Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar on a Friday evening. Please give us a few minutes. We'll wait for a few more people to join. This is an interactive session. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A box. We'll be happy to answer any question that you have. And while we are waiting for others to join, it would be interesting to know where you are joining us from, which part of the country. I see Kior. I don't know how to pronounce that. There's Nitika, Partha, Srinivas. If maybe in the chat, you can just type and tell us which part of the country you're joining us from while we are waiting. Okay. Thank you, Nitika, from Delhi. Kanika and I are both based in Delhi as well. In fact, Kanika has been traveling and has just come back. Great. Srinivas is joining us from Hyderabad. Okay, we have Kior, who's from Ahmedabad. Okay, oh, we have Partha from Goa. You know, Partha, we all wish we were in Goa. It's just been, but Delhi's been behaving itself. We were supposed to have a really, really hot April, but everything is doing well. Hi, Nipinder. Good to see you. Nipendra is joining us from Bihar. Where in Bihar, Nipendra?
Said Gaya from.
Okay. Gaya, okay. I know Pramat mentioned that last time. I think that's where his hometown is near. Okay, so we're almost at the mark. My name is Seema Chowdhury. I head the Harappa School of Leadership, and we run one program called the Accelerated Management Program right now, which is really a fast-track management program, about 6 months, for people who are, cannot give up their jobs or cannot move from a certain location to sort of be present in a full-time role. It's also a program that helps people to think about career pivots. It's a program that gives you insight into leadership, things that you've never been sort of formally taught. And that's what the AMP hopes, to bridge the gap there, to bring things, ideas and thoughts that you sort of can use in your everyday working life and excel as a professional. I have with me today Kanika Singal. Kanika is helping us manage the placements and also career office and career guidance at the Accelerated Management Program. Kanika has formerly worked at McKinsey and at Levi's, and Kanika is a trained architect, if I'm not wrong, Kanika. And she did make a pivot into consulting many, many years back. She's also a published author and now runs her own advisory called Next Leap. So we are here today to ask her questions about what is it that a recruiter or people who recruit for placements, what do they really look for? But before that, Kanika, any thoughts, anything you'd like to add?
I think it's fantastic to be here, and thank you, Seema, for making this happen, and wonderful to see a lot of people from all over India joining us, like places like Gaya and Goa. It's very fascinating. Now Delhi feels like Goa right now with all the rains happening. But really appreciate the time that people are spending with us on this Friday evening, and I do hope that our discussion is useful. And I look forward to hearing questions and hoping to address whatever I can in my limited capacity as we get together.
Okay, so Kanika, I think one of the main questions or something that people often ask, and we're often told that in our career, especially in the times that we are living in today, it's not possible to do like one graduation or one post graduation and then hope that that will sort of suffice for the next 10 or 20 years. The thought these days is that you have to constantly upskill, constantly do something. So, how much value do recruiters really put on people who are constantly updating their knowledge or are participating in different kinds of programs?
I think, thanks, Seema, at the get-go, for this really open the Pandora's box kind of a question, because uh, everybody around us is, gone are the days when the careers were 30-year long careers. Our parents and grandparents, for a lot of people, stayed in an organization good 30 odd years or 20 years. I come from a generation where we were spending about 5 to 7 years in an organization or building anything that we were doing, or at least staying with the field wherever we were. In my lifetime, I've seen new fields emerge like digital marketing. It didn't exist at the time when I started doing marketing in my careers. Now, the way the world is shifting right now as Chat GPT and AI and a whole lot of other things, Goldman Sachs landed up publishing a report 2-3 days back saying professions like legal, professions like content writing, they will go through a major transformation. So the need to upskill and need to make yourself ready for the job is much higher today than it was earlier, because the pace at which the external environment is changing is much faster. What does it mean? So obviously, naturally, students, candidates, job hunters are always in the market trying to get themselves better because the demand of the recruiter is shifting. What is happening is traditionally your long-term careers or long-term education programs, an MBA, which is a 2-year program typically, or a BTech, which is a 4-year program, and they were giving you fundamentals. But those fundamentals are like at this point in time given, and you need to keep on adding on top of it to be really able to be ready for the job market. The recruiter, on the other hand, is looking for people who can get into a job and start performing. They don't have enough time to train people.
Okay.
So they are looking for people who are upskilling themselves. Clearly, they will always look at the additional certifications, etc., that you have collected. But the push is, do you really know the stuff, or have you only collected the certificate?
Okay.
Right? So it's the competence that they're pushing for, that they're evaluating for. And hence, when you're getting into the job market, they're testing you a lot in terms of in their interviews, or they'll give you an assignment or something. So what the recruiter is looking for is anybody who has the skills that match their requirement. And for getting to that requirement, since they are no longer the traditional courses that you've been studying, there's some additional certifications, etc., or additional skills that are required. Great, you've done a certification, but then please show us the application also. And they are always interested in looking at that application. Does it?
So from what you understand from, say, what we are doing at EMP, do you feel like there's enough application for people to be able to then sort of show to a recruiter that, I have learned XYZ. I may not have the depth, but at least I have the basics in place and I can, build on that. Is that something that matters?
Absolutely. And I think that is why this program is so fascinating and so interesting, because what EdSol has done very easily is it's consolidated the MBA program into a 6-month, advanced accelerated management program, in which certain basic elements are there, and it's being taught by people who are in the professions. You're picking up things which are more relevant, right? So on one hand, you are making sure that you're exposing people to right kind of content which is industry relevant. But the ask here is whenever a student comes in, that to put in that extra effort and put in the practice to develop that application. ETSOL is providing fantastic exposure tools, and it's filtering everything to come to a point of saying that that you have all the data, all the knowledge that's needed, right, on what to focus on. But how does that translate is what the candidate will have to put a little bit more effort in.
Okay, so just for me to understand, when your resume goes out, or when you are trying to apply on for a job, or say through a LinkedIn role or something, typically, what are the one or two things that any recruiter, right? Because from what I understand, in any recruiter does not spend more than 6 to 7 seconds on a resume.
Yeah.
So what is it that they're really sort of assessing very quickly when they look at your job application?
Sure. I think one has to look at it from two lenses. One, a lot of times when you're applying to a LinkedIn or into a job portal, your resume is actually getting into a database before it reaches an individual. So a lot of times when we talk of keywords which are matching to a job, so what does a database do? It's an intelligent database. It will match the keywords of your resume to the job description. And then it will sort of highlight your resume in terms of either prioritization or whatever to the recruiter. So your first step is just to get your resumes highlighted at a software level. And that principally means that whenever you read a JD, you pick up the keywords from the JD and you copy paste some of those keywords literally into your resume, into possibly in the top line of your resume, key skills, key competencies, or add it into the body of your resume so that the database does not reject your resume, but actually highlights your resume. And that's the same mindset when a recruiter, now after that database, you've crossed that database filter. So that's the first step. But after you cross the database filter, when the resume reaches the hand of a recruiter, then they are also looking for few things. They're looking for those keywords if they are there. They are also looking for a little bit of a competence. And how does somebody really judge your competence? People judge your competence by looking at your record, right? Your historical performance. Where all have you worked? What is the tenure in each of these positions? Your educational qualification. Those are the kind of things a recruiter is basically looking for. And if they're generally matching with whatever they have within their organization, or what is the benchmark that they have set for themselves. Now, some people say that you need to be from a great institute to get shortlisted. Not true. You need to be relevant to the job to get shortlisted. Some people say, no, I don't want a top tier institute. I want a mid tier institute, right? So ultimately, everybody has a place for themselves in the world. So be very happy and excited about that. Hey, if you are there looking for a job in the job market, there's only one job you're looking for, and it will happen.
But interestingly, can we really say that in this time and age where we've seen multiple big organizations lay off people in droves? We've also seen, we keep saying the economy in India is doing well, but it's still hard to find that job today. Is this because it's a cyclical process, or is this because indeed times are tough right now and it's not really the employees market at present?
I'm completely in agreement with you right now, because it is cyclical right now, and we are going through a cycle where people are not forward investing. Think about it in the COVID times where the IT jobs were on a high, and the number of each of the employee had multiple offers, and people were switching jobs, during that period, because suddenly the need for IT requirements go up high. So this is a correction so to say, which is happening right now. most of the layoffs that we are hearing in some level, or the drying up of the funding in the startup world, etc., which is happening, there's been a lot of macroeconomic and microeconomic elements which are playing out, which is adding on to the sentiments also. But think about it also, that the number of jobs which are shrinking compared to the number of jobs which expanded, it's actually a minuscule percentage. So if Google has fired, say, about 50,000, 60,000 odd people, to the workforce that it carries, it's a very minuscule percentage. Twitter has fired a lot of people. Yes, they have strategically gone ahead with Elon Musk takeover. All of those things have happened. What this does is really, it doesn't say the markets are going down. It just does that the supply of talent in the market increases. So getting a job becomes increasingly more competitive. Right?
So how does one prepare for that? How do you, I mean, if you know that it's one job and, where there's going to be 5 people, but now say maybe 30 people are applying, what do you do to sort of catch the recruiter's eye?
You have to stand out. Your resume has to stand out. And one of the steps is obviously adding more skills, making yourself more relevant. Because in these times, again, your application becomes more important. The recruiter is looking for, so number of hackathons increase. If you're hiring somebody for a business analyst role, you will give that person a task of going ahead and putting a business assignment and doing a business research project or some kind of an assignment. Shine in that assignment. You have to, that's the only way you will be able to go ahead and really outshine what is out there. The second thing which you will have to do is you have to be constantly networking, because expecting that you apply to a job via a portal and you will get a response is not going to happen. Very few such responses happen, because like you, there are thousands of other people who are applying through a portal, and each recruiter today has, for each jobs, there are multiple applications which are sitting in. So getting into the short list of the minds of the people, those one-to-one interactions, if you can have, be present in events, be network, ask people, find jobs which are not really out there, and position yourself to be the person who can go ahead and get those jobs. I also want to say that typically in a recruitment world, like any business, there is a cycle. Jobs typically start happening during the March timeframe or April timeframe. The jobs market actually starts dipping a little bit. Jobs really start happening in a June, July timeframe. They go on till end of December, early January, when you get a lot of movement in the jobs. January to about May, jobs are pretty much like, you will still get some closures, you will still get some recruitment happening, but the mass recruitments that you say don't really happen during this period.
Why is that?
It's a typical business cycle, right? Because companies are busy in setting up their budgets for next year, last year is closing, and at the end of it, the business decides what is their requirement. So they are in that cycle when they're planning. So Jan to March is kind of a planning period. April becomes the next year starting period. And sometime in June, July, the activations and really, so even if you start interviewing sometime in May or April period, the closures typically take 15 to 20 days. You will go through the process, etc. And the closures really start coming in a June, July, August timeframe, and then the cycle really starts happening. So, yeah.
I can see a question, but Sandeep, can I request you to please put it in, and everyone else, if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A box. Let me just take this first question that's come in. Sandeep comes from manufacturing industry and wants to shift to IT or consultancy. He says he's got 15 years of experience. Is it possible to switch careers to get different industry exposure? Normally we are getting job offers relevant only to our experience. So I think this is the question of pivots. And I think a lot of people do want to make pivots. But can you talk a little about where pivots are relevant and what to think about when you want to make a pivot?
Absolutely. Let's put the hat of a recruiter, right, from a company perspective. Why would a company want to hire you? Typically, a company will hire you for two reasons. They see past performance and they say, well, this person has fantastic skills and I need to take that skill. And because those skills are relevant for me, and they've seen a performance and they want to hire you for past performance, or they hire you for future potential, right? That this person looks fantastic. He or she has a potential to perform and change things, and that's where they would hire. So people hire for performance or potential. So when you are getting out of college, when you have zero experience, then a company puts a bet on you and saying, well, this person is great. I believe this person can do well, and they will hire you for potential. When you somewhat reach a mid-career, then you have a body of work. And people want to assess that body of work and really evaluate how is that body of work relevant for me. If you are coming from a manufacturing background, that body of work, whatever specialization that you would have developed in the last X number of years, if somebody has a way of utilizing that body of work, whether it's a consulting, whether whatever it is, whatever new industry it is, then they would definitely want to take you either at a parallel level or give you a plus, give you an add-on on top of it, right? However, if you are not able to show a relevance of your body of work and want to go into a completely new area and a completely new space when you are a mid-career person, then you are as good as a fresher to them, right? You might accelerate and grow in that environment earlier, but then the question really comes back to yes, you can go ahead and do a career switch at any stage in your life, but do you want to go to ground zero and start all over again? So it's easier to do a career switch the earlier you are in your career. It is possible to do a career switch at the mid stages also, but there are always some ifs and buts, and there is always some kind of a trade-off which will happen. And then at a later stage in your career, when you hit, say, a board level position, or when you are in that leadership position, then it is possible to switch industries, switch areas, because then you become a more strategic person. But during the mid careers in your life, you're basically developing a subject matter expertise. And that's the stage, that's how you're growing. So you can switch career during the mid career periods if you are able to show that relevance of your subject matter expertise to whichever field you want to go to.
And I think as both of us who have shifted careers and pivoted to completely different fields, I think if I may on your behalf also add, I think one thing that's relevant is what is the skill that you have in manufacturing, 1, 2, 3, 4 skills that IT can use. If IT thinks that they can use that and your recruiter is able to make that, you are able to show that to your recruiter, then there is a chance that the pivot can happen. But if you can't show that skill, so in my case, for example, my skill was writing, or my skill was understanding what readers want. And in some way, that skill is something similar to what, if I have to write courses or I have to put that down, or what a learner wants. It's some sort of matching of skill, and I was able to show that, which is why from journalism, I could move to edtech. But if I'm not able to show that skill, it's very hard. And some industries also require technical skills, prior knowledge of technical skills. If you can't show that knowledge, then either you have to go back to the ground and say, I will build this, or, it's not always possible to move, is my sense. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, Kanika.
Absolutely. I mean, as you said, you put it very beautifully. It's the skill that you're getting hired for, right? And being able to show the relevance. So it's a skill and then a positioning as to how you're able to draw that connection.
And perhaps networking is very critical here as well, because you may see a job that you feel, hey, I have that skill, I have this, you put your resume into the ATS or into the, but the recruiter is, I mean, even before the recruiter gets to make that connection, your resume most likely will get rejected. So it's important, if you've spotted an opportunity, you think you have the skill, go after people in that organization, reach out to them, send your resume to them directly. LinkedIn opens up avenues. Go do some research on their websites and see who is the hiring manager or who is the, so that's where I think what you meant about networking is what becomes very, very critical. Is that so?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, we have another question, and we are here to answer more questions. We are not seeing too many. Please feel free to put them in the Q&A box. We have a question from Rajesh, who wants to know that 5 years down the line, which field or role will be more in demand? Will it be strategic management, business analytics, or leadership? I'm not sure if leadership and strategic management and business analytics fall in the same category, but Kanika, you want to take a stab on that?
I mean, all three of these will always be in demand.
Which one will be more in demand, Kanika?
See, as the strategic management, if you look at it, there are less number of people in the strategic and the leadership role, and there are more number of people in business analytics role, right? Fundamentally. So saying that, the number of positions in strategic management and the leadership role is going to be lesser than the number of positions which is going to be in business analytics. So I don't know how do you want to really classify it as more in demand or not in demand, but all three of them will always be in demand. Which will be more high paying? Which will be more in terms of decision making roles? Then obviously leadership and strategic management will be more in the space of decision making and higher paying. Business analytics roles are going to be enablers to those decision making. Business analytics people are the people who have the mind, who have the analysis, who have the ability to put the data. So to me, business analytics is first step, and then you can move up to a strategic management and leadership. That's how the hierarchy works. It's not something that you say that it's not an either or question. It's a part of the continuum that happens. Today's strategic management does not happen without business analytics.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying one leads to the other.
Okay. Some people may choose, unless the question is more around data analytics and data scientist kind of roles. Yes, they are growing. They are going to be in demand. If you are looking for more opportunities, number of opportunities, and no more choices to choose from, definitely. Business analytics, data analytics will give you more choice. Strategic management, great ideas, but there are very few jobs that you find in the market. So if you say, I'm going to look for a strategic management job, a lot of those will actually happen through networking. A lot of those really will happen through, it's through knowing people, because in an organization, there are 3 people who will be doing strategic management, but there'll be 20 people who would be doing business analytics.
Okay, so I have I'm requesting everyone to put questions in the Q&A box and not in the chat. But let me take this one. This is Prathamesh. He's a career counselor and also a lead, and also leads, I think, career counseling vertical in an MNC, which is with the social sector. He has about 10 years of experience. He wants to transition into the HR leadership domain. So he wants to know, can he go for it? Number one. Second, he wants to know what are the skills that he needs to highlight.
HR leadership domain. So Prathamesh, we will need to understand. So typically in an HR, there are 3 or 4 different kind of roles that happen in any organization. One is the HR business partner. One is looking at the HR operations. And then there are people who really get onto the path of being the employee experience and the CHRO and the L&D leadership training, and they get onto the strategic HR aspect of it. Now, typically, I have seen that people who are HR business partners, they transition more quickly into the HR leadership roles. And the rationality there is that they are able to understand how the business works, and they are able to pull out the needs of the business into their understanding of their roles and how to implement that. Now, what does it mean for you? As a career counselor, if you have gone ahead and interacted with leaders and been a counselor to leaders, senior leadership per se, right? You will have a better sense of what do leaders' challenges are. How are they able to translate those, or what are the day-to-day business challenges? The more you're able to show your understanding of the leadership challenges of HR, the more and more you're able to highlight how the what are the challenges that, and your ability to solve for those challenges, the business challenges, the better you will be your ability to move into a leadership HR role. So again, to simplify it and put it again, HR leadership people are looking for people who are able to problem solve for the business, who are not saying that, hey, I'm a total rewards person, or who are not saying I'm a recruiter, who are saying that I can help problem solve business issues. Wherever you are able to pull that out from your career counseling world, you will be able to transition. You would have a high chance of getting into a leadership learning and development role as a career counselor. So that could be a stepping stone to get into a CHRO kind of a role over a period of time, if that's what you're wanting to, or aspirationally wanting to be there.
I think he has another point to it. Can you suggest some ATS software to check our resume? If I remember correctly, someone else had also asked this, and we were told that this kind of software is not easily available, and it's not something that individuals can really use.
Yes, such softwares are not individually, I mean, I'm not aware of it, but there was this one startup by the name of VMock, which was basically takes your resume, puts it into a database, and then gives you a benchmark as to how does your resume score with other people who are in a similar profile. So it gives you some kind of a relevant score that if you're looking for a title, say, career counselor title, right? So how does your resume score versus other career counselor titles, right? So try out. I think it used to be available for public. I'm not too sure right now, but there are application tracking systems are used by organizations. They are not freely available for people to go ahead and test that, hey, how am I doing? LinkedIn gives you a good sense of it, that you are among the top 10% or top 5% of applications when you apply for a job there, so that there you can get some sense of how is your resume matching to the role. But
is that only LinkedIn Premium though? I don't think normal LinkedIn does that. Perhaps that you can check as well, Prathamesh, because I think if you apply for LinkedIn Premium, then that allows you to sort of, it allows you to gauge yourself against other applicants.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have an interesting question from Kiran. I think Kiran was from Ahmedabad, wants to know what kind of jobs will get affected by AI and ML. Is it going to be the product manager, marketing manager, which are essentially non-tech roles? By the way, as far as I understand, even tech roles will get affected by AI. So
I think I'll send a report. Like Goldman Sachs came up with a report 2-3 days back listing about how many who are going to be getting affected. And I'll just read out, just give me 1 second of a brief of what I heard. So it says 46% of administrative jobs are at risk, 44% of legal jobs are at risk, and 37% of architecture and engineering jobs are at risk.
Okay.
I have yet to go into the details of the report, but that's what Goldman Sachs is saying. Fundamentally, if you think about it, AI is going to actually impact anything and everything. And with the way, even like I came from an architecture profession, I was like, oh, creatives, no way. And music writing and graphic design can never be taken over by AI because it requires creative, and creative is a very human thing to do. It's happening. We are all seeing so many things around us that is impacting. Having said that, how much of it really gets translated into real job losses? It takes a lot of time for an application. Like we've spoken about having paperless offices when computers came in. Do we have paperless offices today?
No.
So yes, AI will impact jobs, but will it take away all jobs? Not really happening, right? All that we have to do is we have to continuously upskill ourselves and be good at using this as a tool. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to transition over a period of time. And we have that time to really go ahead and build our skills.
Okay. So then, with AI ML coming to grab all our jobs, frankly, Kanika, is upskilling even necessary? Shouldn't we just understand and learn how to use AI ML and just do that?
Absolutely. That is also upskilling, right? Isn't it?
Okay. Sorry, please go ahead.
Right. It's a simple thing. Like earlier, we used to say you need to know how to learn Excel and how to write Excel and write formulas in Excel. Now AI can write formulas, but you need to tell AI what formulas to write. Even to Chat GPT, you need to tell Chat GPT that what is it that you needed to answer. So at least get smart about writing the questions. That is upskilling also.
And for that, you need critical thinking. You need to understand, and that's something that AI, the accelerated management program, I promise, provides. In many ways.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a good. I mean, I didn't think about it, but that's a good look back in that the ideas of the forever skills, the
leadership skills,
the leadership skills, critical thinking, problem solving, structuring. I mean, these are skills that will help shape what you want AI or any of those things to deliver.
Okay. I have lots of questions from Debotham. I think that's how it is pronounced. So I'll club them all in one. Debotham is joining us from Andhra Pradesh. He wants to know, I don't know if it's a he or a she, how to build network with people you don't know, especially if they're leaders who don't belong to the same field.
Have something interesting to say and give value. Ask something that will trigger curiosity in them to respond. Don't just say, I want to have a network. There has to be a purpose to it. You read an article about someone, there is no harm. I mean, if it's too big a person, won't happen. But if you go ahead and you saw something, like supposing you and me are supposed to connect, and after this call, if you go ahead and say, hey, Kanika, we spoke to you and this thing was very interesting in the talk, it is going to be, I will definitely read my LinkedIn, if not today and after 10 days and all. But when I read that message, either there's something interesting and some ask you have, either I will go ahead and respond to it, but at least it'll stay in my memory. But if you just say, hey, just want to connect because we met, it won't really get you and me. I may still connect with you, but won't really get anything. Ultimately, networking is about creating an impression. If you're able to,
you can create impressions even with strangers.
Absolutely.
So, for example, if you're sending a LinkedIn invite to someone or you're wanting to connect with someone, perhaps a good way to say is write a short note saying 2 lines, 3 lines, your profile is very attractive, or, there's much to learn from what you say, and, please do include me in your connections. That's it. And at some point, if they are active on LinkedIn, you can comment on some of their posts. You can reach out to say, hey, I really liked what you said. And I think that's where you build. It's a slow process. Nothing happens overnight. It's not like you send in a request today to Kanika and then tomorrow you are best friends. No, it's going to take 3, 4, 5 months where she notices your comments or you notice her comments and you sort of, get in touch. All good things in life take time. And I think that's.
I think the best thing which I have learned is that two ways that networking happen is one is like when you directly go ahead and say, hey, I have a purpose, and it's a very objective driven. But that lands up like you might just land up in going to events and you meet 5 people and they're set up as networking events, where you go ahead and it's like it's a job fair or it's where, people are getting together for purpose. The other thing is that a lot of times you might like somebody or appreciate somebody and want to establish a connect with them. And that could be, you never know when this will translate into something useful, but that's when you continue to keep on pushing. So I think, Seema, what you spoke about is the second aspect of it, when it's a slow process and when you go ahead and actually build a relationship over a period of time. It's like, I like this person, I like what they do, I am going to be connected to them. So that's one aspect of it. And the other one is like, hey, I'm wanting to connect to this person because I need to get certain things done. Now, whether that thing will happen or not, whether you get a response on that will depend. But that's also a very good way of having a purpose-driven networking, right? So both of these things work.
Okay, interestingly, I have a second sort of question which I will take from they both them again, which is, apart from hard skills, which are very important, I presume by hard skills he means or she means technical skills. What kind of soft skills are needed before you start thinking of making a job or a career switch?
I think, Seema, you are in the best position to answer this, so I'll defer this one to you. I mean, all the work that you've done in ETSOL is really working towards combining these hard and soft skills.
I think this is something that Harappa has often said, and I think even ETSOL sort of what we call leadership skills, or what we call really skills which are communication. You really, really need to work hard on how you communicate. And there are certain tools, frameworks, other things that help you. I think that's where ETSOL comes in. Problem solving, I think, very important, which many people don't understand, and we are trained from childhood to, the minute somebody asks us a question, our first reaction is to put up a hand. How many times do we actually sit down to think in a structured way to sort of break the problem down, to understand what is it that we are really trying to solve? I think that is another very, very important, you can call it a soft skill, but that's also one of the most critical sort of skills that you need to develop as you go along and as you sort of think of shifting careers or even doing better in what you are doing. I think one of the other sort of skills that's very, very critical is constantly thinking and asking the right questions. Sometimes it's not even the right questions. It's constantly being curious, constantly wanting to know more, gather more information, and then sort of see how you want to move ahead. Those are skills that all of us, we have it as a child, but somewhere along we sort of lose it, because we are always told that it's not important, or let's move ahead. I think ETSOL and what those kind of soft skills that are critical, and we believe that our leadership course really sort of takes you towards that. I think one more thing is, how do you handle yourself before you actually start handling other people? What is it that you need to know about yourself and understand where you are at what position in life to sort of then take it forward? Kanika, anything else you want to add?
I think beautifully put. Just want to add one more thing is, I don't know if you call it a can-do attitude or you want to say an ownership of what you're doing or taking responsibility. Any of these three things are combined into one. But in essence, when you meet someone, right, somewhere in your energy, this can-do attitude, the positivity that you would say, you take ownership of what you say you're going to do and you actually do it. In your conversation, it will come through. In your resume, it will come through. When you write your resume and you think, I was responsible for this, or I delivered XYZ to things. If you fundamentally think in that direction, that I am somebody who takes ownership and I am somebody who's responsible for things and I am somebody. It comes through in your resume, in your conversation, and people always like people who are doers and not just talkers, right? So you want people who are able to combine both these things, and that is what and people want to be around people like that, right? So that would be a third thing or fourth thing that I would add to what Seema is saying. Just develop that, and it's a mindset thing. You develop that mindset, it shows. You're on mute.
I have a specific question from Neeti. Says she has been working in teaching for the last 12 years and now has been offered a new role with the title Strategy Planning Executive. What role is actually there for me and should I take it? Neeti, this is maybe we'll need to know some more specifics, but Kanika, I don't know if you want to give it a shot.
No, it's fantastic. Firstly, welcome to teachers. I am so fascinated and impressed with teachers who are now getting into the business worlds or who are getting into the strategic kind of roles. So firstly, to me, this shows the openness of, even if you're in the same industry and the same organization and doing strategic role, if that's what the overall, if you're going outside, is how the boxing is shifting, the pivots that we talk about. So there's a fantastic example of that. So Neeti, again, we would like to know more, but I'll just hazard a guess here that typically a teaching job is that of you going ahead and sharing your learnings and with a group of people. I think that's the parallel between that and the strategic parallel job, because you are learning and you're assimilating a lot of information and putting in a structured format and sharing with a bunch of different people. So that's a parallel that I can draw. But I think a strategic planning executive would really be somebody who's looking at everything from a business perspective, from which is trying to look at everything, not just from a component, but a holistic perspective and saying, okay, there are different aspects of, in a teaching job also, there's students, there's management of parents, there's management of teachers, making sure the buses are running on time, making sure the kids are getting food on time, all those things. So there are the fees is coming in, the stationery is there. So there is different aspects. At the end of the school is a business, right? As a teacher, you're just doing one component of it in which you go ahead and you teach. So when you think of somebody like a strategic planning executive, essentially it's somebody who's you've been given a role as like you understand one component in depth. Now look at it from a holistic perspective, right? And see what you can do. So depends on what you want to do, but this could be an interesting shift in whatever you are doing. And I don't know if it's in the same industry or another industry. Some skills will be different. And I think it's a fantastic, it sounds very good.
Okay, I have Kumar Shantanu here with me, and he says that it's great to hear from you. So there's he says his query is that eventually he wants to become a diplomat and serve our country. I wouldn't say just his. He wants to know what are the top-notch soft skills that he should sort of start working towards, so that when he does become a diplomat, he's able to serve his country, our country, better.
Diplomacy. Again, Seema, I think you may be in a better position because you've interacted with a lot of people in your pre-world. I mean, you would want to take a...
I would say, one of the things, negotiation skills, which is very, very important as a diplomat. And I know that negotiation can go both ways, but it's a very important skill. And we often don't pay much attention to that. Second, listening. I think we don't realize that, everybody wants to talk, but it's probably more important to learn how to listen. And I think as a diplomat, that's one skill you will have to develop. And listening is very different from hearing. Public speaking, I think that's another very, very critical soft skill. So you've got to know how to present yourself on a platform. And to be able to do that effectively, you've got to learn how to structure your thoughts, how to write down, or how to sort of, prepare how you will present your point of view. And a lot of that is part of, again, of the leadership skills that we teach. But understanding how to structure your conversation, understanding who you're speaking to, synthesizing, being able to sort of, put your point of view across in a manner that works for you and for the other person, which is where your negotiation skill comes in. All of these things are very, very critical. Kanika, anything else you'd like to add? Critical thinking, I think I can't stress enough on how important that is for diplomats or for anyone who wants to work in public service. And design thinking, I think that's the other thing that many people don't realize. Design thinking is a very vast topic, but 2 or 3 things that stand out in it is that you think from the perspective of the person who's going to be on the other side, your stakeholder. And I think that's very, very critical. And of course, how do you sort of, learn different steps before you start going to solve problems? Kanika?
No, I think, Seema, you've covered it all. The only thing which says is diplomacy is all about being discreet. So somewhere that is one of the other skills, but I think that comes with experience and the knowledge of it, but you've covered it all.
Okay, we have an interesting question. Maybe this one is definitely yours because you've worked with the Big Four and I haven't. How important, this is Nitika, she wants to know how important is culture as a factor to consider when you think of pivoting? She currently works with a credit rating agency, which is in somewhat of a in a niche role. And she wants to she believes that any one of the Big Four companies, now for others who don't know Big Four, this could be a Deloitte or a McKinsey or a, correct?
So there is the Big Four typically, so the term Big Four really came in because whenever you would speak about the accounting firms, so which is, as Madhuri is putting it, it's Deloitte, PwC, KPMG, and Accenture. So these were classically the Big Four. And then you had the 3, where the big 3s which were there, which was McKinsey, BCG, and Booz Allen. So that is how the world was divided, because McKinsey, BCG, and Booz used to do strategy consulting. And these 4 were the accounting firms which started doing consulting. And now over years, the worlds are kind of merging and everything is and companies have gone breaking up and making up and all those kind of things. So they're all kind of merging.
So let me finish her question. So she wants to know that there is a division that she might be interested in, but she's understood from people that she's spoken to that the Big Four always have a very extremely aggressive approach to work, and that's very unlike the culture that she has been exposed to. So how important should culture be when you're thinking of, I don't even think this is exactly pivoting, I think this is more a job change.
Yeah.
How do you sort of think of that?
I think culture, personally for me, and I have seen a lot of people get into an environment and thriving in an organization or not thriving in an organization, is culture plays a massive role. Culture is basically when you see your individual value alignment with the organization's value alignment, right? So it's a very important factor if you're looking for a long-term career switch to any organization, that whether you will be able to adapt and live in that environment. I would, however, say statements like that organization has a very aggressive culture, it's hearsay. Any organization which is growing, the fact that you're looking for a job switch is a level of aggression and an aspiration to grow. That is why you're looking. So putting yourself and saying, I am not aggressive, is not a very, it's just underselling yourself to a large extent. So I would say pause, think. If somebody has said something is very aggressive, don't just go by the word of it. It's about how do you evaluate the culture, right? And to me, the best way of evaluating a culture is if you ever get an opportunity to walk into into the office of that organization. And I'm sorry, in the post-corona world, a lot of discussions are happening on Zoom, etc. But the best way, if ever it's possible, walk into the organization. And once you walk the floor of a company for 5, 7, 10 minutes, and when you're going ahead and meeting someone, your intuitive sense will give you a sense of the culture. You will see people, the way they're dressed, they're walking, they're talking. That itself will give you a feel whether you like it or not. And if you like it, then go for it. Don't read the reviews. Don't go by what people say, because ultimately you have to live in that place. If you're not able to do that, actually speak to the people and hear the day that they go through, instead of asking how's the culture. When you ask a question like how's the culture, people will give their perception. Make a judgment on what their day looks like. Can you survive in that particular day? If you can, then go for it.
Okay, I have a question from Srinivas. He says he's a mid-level house legal counsel, has 22 years of experience, has been working with a very large manufacturing company. He wants to know what could be his next role. What should he look for if at all he wants to sort of switch or change?
I think you are in a fantastic place of I'm pretty sure with the knowledge, with the company that you are with, it's a very stronghold you would have in that organization. When you are an in-house legal counsel, typically I have seen people, since people really move from an in-house legal counsel to an in-house legal counsel of or investor relationship or policy and license work with the government, as the 3 shifts that I have seen people make, the in-house legal counsels really land up making. The question is, what do you want to do? Your skills are very valuable. As an advisor, you can also switch to becoming an advisor with other companies of similar kind of setups. You can actually possibly looking at working for other legal organizations who would be interested in possibly the skills that you have as an in-house legal counsel. But the switches that I have seen at your stages of career has been more in the government license work, government relationships, if I may call it, or investor relationships. Those are the 2 switches I have typically seen legal counsel at your stage of careers to be made. Not an expert at this. Happy to do research and come back to you and talk to you more about it. But this is what my experience has, or what I've seen in my life.
Okay, Kanika, we have a question, or we're almost on time, but this is Shomik, who wants to know that are there any tools that can help you to identify keywords in a JD? Because he says if that's what's most important to getting shortlisted, then are there any ways to sort of do this? I think read the JD.
To read the JD, yes. You and me are pretty old school, I guess.
I know.
You read the JD, and when you read the JD, you will see certain words repeating invariably, or you will get a sense that, hey, if the title of the JD says that you're looking for a digital marketing specialist, and in the core of the JD says that you need to know digital marketing, programmatic marketing, they'll use the same words again and again 2, 3 times, and by reading that JD that those would be the keywords. Reading and writing. Nobody can take away the age-old method.
You put it in Chat GPT and tell us the keywords.
I've never tried it, but maybe
you should. I suspect that is one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Like, can we put a JD and a chat and your resume in Chat GPT and say now sort of
maybe we can do that.
We could try that, right? No harm.
Absolutely.
Okay. One last question before we go. This is again from Deba. And I know you said I pronounced it correctly, but I seem to have stumbled on it. Anyway, wants to know, while making an industry switch, one needs to have certain sector specific skills. Can volunteering be a good way to show your worth?
Yes, volunteering is a good way of showing your worth. Make sure that you are able to position it correctly.
Okay. And of course, wants to know that they keep trying to apply through LinkedIn, but rarely get a response. Any specific reason why that happens?
Because there are tons of applications on LinkedIn, and the recruiter has, say, 4,000, 5,000, 200, 400 applications to go through. Plus, they're also getting applications through their own portal. Plus, they're also getting applications. So, see, the challenge for a recruiter is that they get so many applications. They can't review all the applications. And that's why the whole recruitment industry exists. Right? So, LinkedIn's are great, but working through a recruiter is a very important factor, irrespective. Because the recruiter is then able to, put you in front with a story in front of a company, or working through a college network, or working through, like an AMP program, then you are actually hand holding and you're directly reaching out to the HR heads of the company and, presenting the resumes there. Those kind of efforts come into play. You basically need a sponsor in your career. Right.
And a program like AMP could be one of those, right?
So that's how you make switches. You need a sponsor. Okay. So otherwise, you are a part of this large glut of resumes which come, and then it's a question of luck who picks you. Otherwise, also it's a question of luck and everything. But at least your chances just improve.
All right. So I think we are almost on time. I wanted to say thank you, Kanika. I think we've answered almost all the questions that came our way. Please feel free to write to us if you have more questions. I think our information is already in the chat. We run a fast-paced management program, and we believe that it can help not just upskill you, but also give you that little sort of edge when you move ahead and think about changing jobs, changing careers, or just sort of, to do something different in life. Thank you, Kanika. Absolutely wonderful to have you with us. Let's meet again.
Absolutely, Seema, and thank you so much. It's always great to chat with you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.